Most gardeners would probably tell you they have a favorite flower. Mine would be gardenia, but a close runner-up would be hydrangea. So today, let's talk about hydrangeas. Welcome back to Rooted and Refined. We're going to jump right into it. What you just saw are little lime punch hydrangeas. Now I keep all my tags, and here is the tag for little lime punch. You'll notice on that tag how pink those flowers are. Mine are not pink. They start out as this beautiful lime green, hence little lime. And let's see, oh, I can show you right down here. They start to age to a pink color. Now mine will never get that deep pink because I am in the southeastern United States. Our nights stay too warm for these flowers to develop that pink color. They need cooler nights in order to get that deep, rich color. But I love these just the same. We had some rain last night, pretty good steady rain. And while there's a couple of hydrangeas flopped over down there, you can see these stems are strong. They are holding those panicles up. And that brings me to my next point. This is called a panicle hydrangea. It's got these beautiful panicle flowers, and these take full sun. You might have heard hydrangeas have to be in morning sun and afternoon shade, but not panicle hydrangeas. They like the sun. If I open up my tag here, we can see this little lime punch gets 3 to 5 inches tall and wide. And something interesting about these is all but the middle one, this middle one I purchased last year, all of these shrubs came from that garden space. I transplanted them last year. I transplanted 3, one did not make it, and they did not do well in this garden space over here. They weren't growing, they were just stagnant. This is their second year here, and look at them. Isn't it amazing how when you just find the right place for a plant, how it can thrive? They're doing phenomenal in this space. Another panicle hydrangea I have is Pinky Winky. Pinky Winky, you see, has more open flowers, more open panicles. They're not as floriferous as Little Lime Punch, but wait until you see this tag. Pinky Winky keeps that nice open panicle, and it starts to color from the bottom up. The top of those panicles will stay white. Again, I will not get that deep dark color, but they will turn pink for me on the bottom. Now, Pinky Winky does not read tags. Pinky Winky says it gets 6 to 8 feet tall and wide. I have seen Pinky Winky get much, much taller than that. So in this space, I will likely have to prune it. That's okay. Let's talk about when to prune our panicle hydrangeas. Panicle hydrangeas bloom on new wood. So this year's growth will hold the flowers. You can prune them at any time and not worry about cutting off your flower buds. I tend to not prune them while they're flowering. I let them go. If one branch is growing way up off to the side, I might trim that back, but I let them go. Now, this is Pinky Winky's 3rd year in this space. You can see how beautiful and open that panicle is. You see all those buds too getting ready to open. But I just love how you can take a panicle hydrangea, and have 2 different looks, completely different looks. And you can see it's starting to turn pink there. Moving on to Hydrangea serrata, also known as mountain serrata. You can see they have a little bit of a smaller leaf than a macrophylla would have. This hydrangea can take full sun. And where I have it is in full sun. We've got an overcast day today, but This is a full sun spot. You'll see there's a bit of a white tinge to the leaves, and that's because I sprayed it with an antifungal spray. I don't know if it's because it's in full sun or if there's something to those black spots on the leaves, but I just wanted to be better safe than sorry. That just could be because it's in the sun and maybe getting scorched a little bit. Now, this hydrangea will change color. Panicle hydrangeas don't change color depending on your soil. They are what they are. You're getting what you're getting. This one will be blue in more acidic soils. So if I wanted to come in and throw some sulfur around this plant, I could change the pH and make this more blue. I like it pink. And you can see that's what it looks like when it first opens. And then all those buds still left to open. Now this, instead of those big bunches of flowers like what we saw on the Panicle hydrangeas, this has a Lacecap type flower. See that Lacecap, how it's really open, and it'll keep some of those buds closed. They won't all open. This is pretty much what it looks like when it blooms. It's just very dainty. All right, looking at the tag for this one, you can see that it is a Seaside Serenade Cape May hydrangea, and it says clearly on the tag, part sun. Now, as I said, I have this in full sun. One of the interesting things about this plant is during the fall, the leaves will turn a bit of a bronze color, and you can kind of see that's what it looks like. The leaves will turn, more of the leaf will turn kind of that bronzy color, which gives it even more interest, I think. If we open up our tag, we can see that it says this plant gets 3 feet wide by 3 feet tall. This has been here about 3 years, and I would say it is at that 3 by 3 height and width. Also, this hydrangea is a zone 4 through 9. Those panicle hydrangeas that I showed you a bit ago are 3 through 8. Now, if I wanted to keep this one smaller, I would want to prune it after it's done blooming in the summer. It blooms on old wood. So if I were to prune it later in the fall or in the spring before it blooms, I risk cutting off blooms. Moving on to the first hydrangea I planted on this property, and this is a good old Hydrangea macrophylla. This is the one that turns pink or blue depending on the soil. You can see from the tag, it gets 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, and it says full sun to part shade. Now, in my southeast zone 8A South Carolina garden, if I were to put this in full sun, it would not do well. So it is in a spot where it gets part sun, and you can see how the blooms change over time. In my video where I tested the soil around this plant, you could see when the blooms were brand new and then they age. I think they look beautiful as they age. I love it. I think it just gives it more interest. And you can see there's some new growth there. Now, I mentioned in a previous video, I did cut this down this year. When I talked about pruning off parts that look like they're getting kind of wild, I could probably prune that branch off, but if I step back, it's got more growth coming off the other side. I'm gonna let it go and see what happens. This is another one that I would not want to prune in the spring of next year or late fall. This blooms on old wood. You can see the leaves are fairly large, where that mountain serrata, they were a little bit smaller. Now, I mentioned in a previous video that this hydrangea created a new plant. I recently pruned this hydrangea. It was much, much larger than this, but it was very leggy. I wanted to get it back into shape, so I pruned it. And as I pruned it, I noticed it had a branch or stem that went along the ground to here. It had laid down on the dirt and rooted into a different plant, a brand new plant. So now I have 2 endless summer macrophylla hydrangeas. All right, I showed you this garnet hydrangea in a previous video as well. Here is the tag for that one. This is also a Hydrangea macrophylla. This does not change color. Well, I say that. The blooms change color as they age, as is the case with probably all hydrangeas. This one says it gets 30 to 36 inches tall and wide. This one wasn't reading plant tags. This is a little bit bigger than that. Not much. It's probably not much over 3 feet tall and wide, but it is. But I just love, again, how you can have these different colored blooms on the same plant as they age. It just provides so much interest. I've got another one next to it. Now this part of the side yard is more shade than sun. Still part sun, but more shade than sun. And as we swing around here, we've got the same two Garnet hydrangeas that are planted in more sun. And you can see they are smaller. And this is what they look like when they first start to open. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just gorgeous. I just love how they, I mean, look, you've got pink, purple, green, so much interest on just one plant. Hydrangeas are just impactful. I just love them. Now, if we look on the back of this tag for this Garnet hydrangea, we can see it says full sun to part shade in the north, part to full shade in the south. And as I showed you, the ones that I have in more shade are taller, wider, and they do have more blooms than the ones that I have in more sun. This also says it is hardy from zones 5 through 9. And look under bloom time where it says May through September on new and old wood. Now I am still not going to prune this until it stops flowering because I don't want to risk cutting off any of those gorgeous flowers. Looking back at the ones that I have in more shade, I've never pruned these, and I don't think I ever will need to. And that's part of careful selection, knowing how big your plants are supposed to get. Now again, plants don't read tags, but knowing how big they're supposed to get and choosing wisely where to put them can save you a lot of time and energy in the long run. I'll show you one more, and this is a Pinky Winky that needs to get planted. I got this from a mail order company last year. It was in rough shape when I got it. It was very small. It had 2 leaves on it when I got it. And I thought, all right, we'll see what happens. It's doing much better this year. I've battled a bit of a, I don't know if it's a watering issue or a fungal issue. It was getting yellow leaves with spots. So I just went ahead and sprayed it with an antifungal because why not? It's not going to hurt anything. It actually is looking much better since I've done that. So, and I haven't changed the way I've watered it. So it probably was more of a fungal issue. This will get planted in the ground this season. It's just too hot to plant it now. We are in the middle of summer here in the Southeast, and we are hitting 90, 100 degree days basically every day. So I'm not going to plant it now. It'll get planted later in the season. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Rooted and Refined. Thanks for walking around with me and looking at those hydrangeas. I hope you've learned something today. And until next time, stay rooted, stay refined, and plant some hydrangeas. I'll see you soon.